It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Colton Steakhouse and Thompson Sales. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, big thank you for tuning in this week as we talk sports in the Ozarks and beyond. Big thank you to our sponsors, Colton Steakhouse and Thompson Sales. Hoping to have Thomas Orr from Colton's on here at the back end of the program. We're going to try to reach out, but if he's busy making that great lunch over at Colton's, he said he'd catch us next week. So stay tuned on that. But, for those who have heard and maybe you don't know, we have a new radio station in town, 1021 The One, spelled W-O-N, play on the gambling format in most of the programming throughout the day. But started a local show, The Starting Lineup, in mornings this week. Myself, Ned Reynolds, Art Haynes, doing the show from 7 to 9 a.m. One of our regular guests on there throughout the course of the show will be on Mondays visiting with Chris Parker from KY3's Ozark Sports Zone, the O-Zone. We had a lot to try to cram in about 10 minutes this week on Mondays, so we're going to do the podcast where we can make Parker talk a little longer today. Chris, thanks for joining me.
Always glad to be here and enjoyed my first appearance on the show.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and we'll mix in Sully every now and then. And the O-Zone is perfect for the Monday slot in my mind because we're recapping the weekend, and nobody does it better in the area than the O-Zone now that Wyatt has departed, to the middle of Kansas, middle of nowhere there. And he was always, you could go one or the other. I think Ryan Collingwood's doing a good job with the Citizens, staying on top of things. But when you need scores, you need numbers, you need award teams, the O-Zone is what we used to have in a sports page back in the day where you had an agate page. You could look up scores and records and all that. So thank you for the work you put in. You look like you might be in crossover season right now from fall to winter sports, just slightly fatigued.
Oh yeah, that's this is actually one of the peak weeks of work for the entire year, because we've got all the state stuff finishing up, and now I'm already posting and writing basketball previews. So next week it slows down a bit because we'll just be to soccer and football after this week. But for now, I'm getting ready to sit down and watch New Covenant volleyball playing the Final Four here shortly on the stream, and Danielle will be up there starting tomorrow for 3 days up there in St. Joe.
Now, volleyball starts today. This is Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I was under the impression Thursday, so I was wrong on that. But I know that Nixa plays tomorrow against Lafayette, I believe a 10 a.m. start there. So they dragged this out 3 days or 4 days?
It's 4 days now. They only had the one court back when they made that change a couple of years ago. They used to play down at the Show Me Center in Cape Girardeau. You would have both Class 5 semifinals playing at the same time on adjacent courts. But now it's a single court situation. And they also used to do it completely differently, where when you got to the Final Four, it was pool play. So all the teams would play each other in one day, and then the top two teams would play for the title the next day. So you'd actually play the teams back-to-back days. But they made the change to go more to have a traditional bracket setup, to where, like every other sport is, to where you just play who stands in front of you.
Well, if you've watched this podcast in the last 3 years, I like to bring Parker on 2 or 3 times to just get us caught up because nobody stays in tune with it as much as he does. So we're going to touch on all of it from the fall with the high schools, what's done, what's still coming up. Obviously, volleyball today with New Covenant, Nixa, Lafayette, matchup tomorrow morning at 10. Webb City, Mount Vernon, Liberal, and Winona, I think. Does that cover the volleyball?
I think that hit all of them right there. Yeah, we got a really good representation down there, or up there this year.
So one of the Nixa seniors, Addie O'Connell, good friends of our family. We spent a lot of time with her and her parents, and her dad and I were watching football over the weekend and talking about Lafayette. And I said, you need to show Addie Miracle, the Kurt Russell movie, with the U.S. hockey team win over Russia. And bad pairing on his part. He'd never even seen it yet, but I know they sat down and watched it Tuesday night. Is that kind of the task ahead for Nixa with this Lafayette Wildwood program? Give us the daunting numbers with them. I saw they're 38-1 on the year, correct?
They are 38-1. I wouldn't go so far as to say miracle with them. They have lost this year. They lost to Lee Summit West, a 25-6 Class 5 team. They lost. That's their one loss is 2-1. So in-state public school, they've lost to them. Now they do have the history of 3 consecutive state titles, 9 total. They're going for their 10th in program history. But what Nixa has working for it is, I know some people might have been felt surprised by looking at Ozark's record and Nixa's record to see Nixa come out 3-0 because Ozark was 32-3. The losses were 2 to Nixa and 1 to Wildwood. But Nixa played a pretty incredible schedule this year, Scott. Their losses: Bentonville West, St. Thomas Aquinas, Blue Valley West, Olathe West, and they have played this Lafayette Wildwood team, and they did take 1 set off of them. So, I mean, it's one of those that they know they can land a punch. They go in there knowing we can get 1. You just got to get 2 more. While Wildwood is obviously the favorite, they're always going to be a favorite. They're essentially the incarnate word of volleyball, the way they play with the talent they have there. Nixa, it's not like Nixa's incapable of winning. They know that they can take a set off of them.
You know, and I thought more about this, and we know the really good coaches in the area. They're kind of household names if you're a high school sports fan. Annie Zimmerman kind of flies under the radar, doesn't she, with Nixa, with the teams she churns out each year, and every now and then they really rise up with a state contender. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's in Class 5. It's a trio of coaches. It's Marcy Adams at Kickapoo, Adina Brewer at Ozark, and Annie Zimmerman at Nixa. I looked it up. I can't remember the exact number off my head, but it's something crazy. Like in the last 10, 11, 12 years since they added a class and Willard moved down to Class 4, those 3 teams have been in the district championship matchup. A combo. 2 of those 3 teams have been in the district championship for 10 of the last 11, 12 years, dating back to when Willard had their really good run with Jamily Hancock. That was the last time a team not named Kickapoo, Nixa, or Willard played in our biggest class thing there. So they're always right there, and I think that, in general, volleyball gets overlooked in favor of other sports. We have, and it shouldn't be, because we produce some really, really great volleyball talent. We generally have at least 1 Missouri State signee a year. Grace O'Reilly's up at Mizzou right now. Even dating back, Emily Thader was at Kickapoo, and in that Kickapoo team, there was also another girl. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she went to University of Miami, Ohio. Birdie Hendrickson was out at Florida. And then, we produce a lot of high-level volleyball talent in this area, and I don't think that gets even seen enough.
Yeah, and by the time this airs, coming out midnight Thursday morning, New Covenant will have played. What was your expectation today? What is your expectation of them today in the Final Four?
I think they've got a good shot. I think that's a pretty evenly matched situation there. There are some teams in the Final Four who you just kind of look at, like in Class 3, especially Helias Catholic. They've dropped back down a class, and they look really, really fairly unbeatable. Their only losses to Wildwood, they're 34-1-1. But I don't see that in Class 2 necessarily this year. They're playing New Covenant's playing St. Vincent, but it's a very open situation there where I think anybody could win. And the thing New Covenant has working for it is it's a very balanced attack. Normally, you can look at a team and see who they're going to set, where they're going to go. It's hard to get New Covenant out of system because their system is everybody. They can find anybody to hit. They have 4 or 5 girls who all have about 200 to 250 kills in that range. So I like the balance they have. And the only thing you got to ask is, your first time on the big stage. A lot of times we see that with teams making this program's first ever appearance there, and just being sure they don't make it bigger than it is, and playing within themselves.
Any surprises among these teams that advanced? I know obviously the Nixa, it could have been Nixa or Ozark, but Webb City, Mount Vernon, were they expected or not?
Webb City's been knocking on the door, and they were in the quarterfinals, I think, last year, maybe the year before that. And so not surprised with them. I thought that would go either way, Marshfield or Webb. Mount Vernon probably came as a little bit of a surprise because Logan Rogersville spent the whole year ranked in the top 10 of the state. They were the defending state runners-up. They have Millie Bauer, who's going to Mizzou, and Haley Buckman, who's a SEMO basketball commit. But they lost in the quarterfinals, and then Mount Vernon was able to sweep the team that beat Sullivan, the team that beat Logan Rogersville 3-0. Really great for that program to finally break through. They've been another one that's been close. So huge props to them for getting through. And then Class 1, I don't know if it's a surprise, but Liberal, I don't know if we 100% saw them coming. Here is an interesting thing about Liberal. I know they're a little bit out of the viewing area, but I love this story. They have a girl named Allie Barton. She's their number one hitter. And she's also one of the best cross-country runners in the state. So on Saturday morning, Allie Barton finished, I think, 4th or 5th at state last year, and she's won multiple state championships on the track. Her older sister ran for KU, and like, it's a running family. So she ran at Hermitage at 9:45 in the morning, ran a 5K, took it easy for her, and ran 2 minutes slower than her PR, but still took 12th overall to qualify. Got her cool down in, hopped in the car, drove down to Billings, and then proceeded to be their number one ace hitter, jumping over and over again for 5 complete sets against Billings, helping to lead them, kind of their go-to hitter. And so now this weekend, she's got to play her state semifinal volleyball match on Friday. And then the next morning at 9:45 in the morning is her state cross-country meet in St. Joe. And then she has a state place game later that afternoon back in Columbia for cross-country. Then she has to go to St. Joe for volleyball. So she's got to go between St. Joe and Columbia a couple times there. So it's just a great story that she could potentially win state titles in 2 sports on the same day.
And what is that distance? Did you look it up? The Columbia to St. Joe? It's not short.
No, it's 3 hours, give or take. It's close. She probably wouldn't be able to stay for awards if she, like, say she won a state title or was all state in cross country. She's probably not going to be able to accept her medal because she's going to have to get back with her team over there up in St. Joe. So real busy weekend for her, but just an incredible athlete. And as you and I both are all about multiple sports and helping out any way she can with her athletic program there at Liberal.
Well, if she really wanted to impress us, she would run from St. Joe to Columbia and back to get loose, before the volleyball and stuff. But no, that's phenomenal. So let's switch gears to football. You have the usual first round games, most of them blowouts, to set up the semifinals in the districts. Locally, I know we've got a Nixa Ozark rematch of what's not been. Nixa hasn't had a tough game since early September. And they ran through their gauntlet of the COC right off the bat, bang, 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 with Republic, Joplin, Webb, and Carthage in some order there. Ozark this week. Is Blue Springs South the first legitimate test they're going to face, and that'll be about 2 months apart?
Yeah, I mean, they've already played all these teams. We've already seen the results. So that Blue Springs South game, doing my math, it will be, if it comes to pass, it will be at Nixa. So they will get that at home. On the state poll, yeah, there's I know Nixa was number 1 most of the year, but they kind of started to slip down the rankings because not anything they weren't doing, but because of the things CBC and Blue Springs South were doing. Liberty out of Kansas City, they've won a state title before, multiple state titles before, and they've only got 1 loss on the year. And that loss was to Blue Springs South 42-3. So Blue Springs South is beaten up on some real quality opponents, which is why those rankings changed the way they did. But even at that, I think in the final poll, there were three or 4 votes for each of the top 3 there. So it'll be an interesting finish to the season. But yeah, for Nixa, they're for the most part looking forward. And as an aside here, before we continue, there was talk about opening up 2 weeks in the COC schedule to allow teams to go play who they want. That got voted down, so that won't happen. But it's something I would have loved to see, give Nixa the chance if they wanted to put Blue Springs South on their schedule, they could, or CBC. And maybe teams who are competing towards the bottom of the standings could put other teams on their schedule and go out there and see kind of what's going on. But that got voted down. I would love to see it come back up for a vote and maybe pass in future years, because those matchups are fun, Scott. When we see those out-of-conference things, like the Big 8 has 1 free week a year. Lamar played Tipton, a really good team. Seneca Carl Junction played each other, that old Big 8 rivalry. I like it when we get some non-conference games that, kind of change things up.
Yeah, if that were the case this year and it were in effect, I would love to see like a Nixa versus, Broken Arrow or Jinx or Bentonville or Rogers or just something different. But, it's a moral dilemma for Coach Perry, these next 2 district games, because you have to get your kids conditioned and prepared to play 4 quarters of mentally tough football before you play Blue Springs South if it comes to fruition. But by the same token, if you play those kids, you're probably going to score 70 or 80 points and have people calling you out for running it up. I mean, what What does he do that's the right answer?
I mean, there is no good answer, but ultimately everybody's got to do what's best for them at this time of year. And I think that's kind of the answer. You got to do what's best. The goal is to win a state title. We are in the playoffs now, and you got to do what you have to do to get ready.
I used to seed help seed the blue and gold. I'm trying to get Jay Osborne to let me seed it from now on. Now that he's back at Greenwood, and get some of those juicy matchups back together. But I guess the district matchup I want to see is Republic and Carthage in a district final. After the way they ended in the regular season, I thought Republic got screwed on that. It looked like an interception. Then we've got apparently Ed Hockley on the officiating crew out there calling it a simultaneous catch. What were your thoughts on the play, and are you looking forward to what would be a feisty matchup if those two can get to meet again?
And I've talked to several people, and honestly, it's a 50-50 split on what they think about that play. But how big was that play? It's the difference between the number one seed hosting throughout versus getting Webb City this week. And then if you win that, Webb City Republic plays at Carthage. It was a huge call and a huge play. And again, I personally have had many people say different things on that one. Ultimately, it is what it is, and now they've got to play. And I would be interested to see Republic go back down there and kind of how that would look. It would definitely be the game of the week of any. That matchup in Thayer versus Marionville are kind of the two district championship matchups I've got circled as potential as the games you need to watch.
Tell me about some of the teams that have kind of been, and I wouldn't say under the radar, but it's kind of been a Nixa, Republic, Carthage, Webb, everybody else this year, at least in the upper level of enrollments. But, Springfield Catholic, Logan Rogersville, what does the path look like for teams like that?
Well, Highway 60 is the path. West Plains, Thayer, West Plains, Mountain View Liberty, and Mountain Grove all got District 1 seats this year. Okay. So everybody's got to go out there. So Springfield Catholic was in the driver's seat, but then they lost 2 games in a row to end the season, and that became the difference between hosting Mountain View Liberty for a title game and going to Mountain View Liberty. Okay. So for Catholic, one of the greatest turnarounds. I mean, Scott, you've been doing this for a long time too. Basketball teams, you can turn it around quickly because it's only 5. It's only 5. Football, it's hard to go from what Catholic was last year with 1 or 2 wins to what they were this year, starting out 7-0. Making that kind of turnaround it was an incredible coaching job by Wes Page and an incredible buy-in by the players. And so no matter what happens in this district playoffs for Catholic, no team has had a bigger turnaround, and I've been very impressed by them. But yeah, they've got to go. They're in a big SCA heavy district, which we know SCA, kind of like the Big 8. Once you get to the postseason, that physical brand of football they play really shows up in a big way, to be honest with you.
They're beef eaters. Those kids are beef eaters.
They are.
Yeah.
Catholic and Forsyth, they played a really close game. They played this week. So Catholic's got to get through Forsyth. Forsyth ended up being the Mid-Lakes Conference champion, undefeated, or with the 1 loss, because Catholic did lose that last game, so they didn't have to split it. So that's one of the best semifinal games. West Plains does get to host. And on the other side of that district is in the other semifinals, Raj Carl Junction. But we've got Monette going out to West Plains. Now, if you remember, West Plains put up 50 on Rogersville. It's a 50-40 game. West Plains doesn't mind scoring the ball. We know a mock offense also likes to score the ball. So I expect a big number there in that Monette West Plains game. In terms of interest, that one's a very interesting one to me just because it's a matchup we never see. Monette and West Plains, Big 8, Ozark Mountain Conference. So I'm excited to see kind of how that one goes. And so Rogersville has to beat Carl Junction again, and then they would move on to the championship against the winner there.
A lot of people don't realize you can't actually get from Monette to West Plains too. They just have never driven that, unless they go to Florida and drive through on their way. Raj and Joel Wells, he's done a great job getting that program going. What's their path?
Their path is they're in that same district with West Plains and Monette. They play Carl Junction now, and then this week, and then if they win that, they get the winner of West Plains Monette. If it's Monette, they host. If it's West Plains, they go to West Plains. Again, that head-to-head, that 10-point game that they lost to West Plains at home, is the difference between the 1 seed and the 2 seed, and a host or not host for that district championship game. And so kind of that's the path there. They're class 4. We don't have a lot of highly ranked teams, but they would play a Gateway or a Parkway North in the quarterfinals. At the top of that At the top of that class is Kearney, a really tough team. There are basically a few teams that seem like locks to win state. Kearney's been number 1 all year. In Class 2, Blair Oaks looks just unbeatable. And in Class 5, Platte County looks pretty unbeatable as well.
And state football's in St. Joe too?
It is in St. Joe. We're moving up there this year.
Did I miss the memo that St. Joe became the epicenter of high school sports in the state of Missouri? Explain this to me.
I don't know who all bid is the thing. It's a question I need to ask whether the sports commission here or Misha. But I had heard that there weren't that many bids on state football. I don't know how many or who. And so it has to go somewhere. I think everybody thought it was going to stay at Mizzou. And so maybe that discouraged some people from bidding, because why would we put all this together if it's just going to be at Mizzou? It's a good fit, SEC facility, great press boxes, good access across the state. And so volleyball has been going to St. Joe for a while. I think it got awarded a couple years ago, but football kind of came as a surprise to everybody.
Tell me about the Lamars, the Senecas, the Marionvilles, what their paths look like. You mentioned there. I want to commend Lamar for not dropping football after McDonough County beat them at home in the opener, I believe. My guess is they told all those kids, you don't get to deer hunt this year because you lost that one. So, but what's the path look like for our usual small school powers?
We'll start with Lamar there. Just like last year, right on schedule. Last year, Alex Wilkerson, their quarterback, was hurt most of the year, got healthy for the end. They made a run to the state title with, I think, a 4-loss record. This year they had 3 losses, and then they go and beat Seneca in one of the most shocking scores of the week. I think Seneca might have had an injury or two, or a player sit out or two, that may not have long-term implications, but affected that. But injuries affect so much at the high school level. That's why when you see our picks, and you're like, why did they pick that? That went that way. We don't have injury reports on like picks. And so Lamar looks like they are healthy now. And so their path is they're the number 1 seed. They were actually able to jump above Holden with that last win because of Holden only has 1 or 2 losses, but even with the 3 losses for Lamar, the difficult schedule they play, playing up every week, they gave them that 1 seed. And then they'll play the winner of that Catholic Forsyth Liberty District, who's waiting in the quarterfinals. The semifinal would be against Blair Oaks. And Scott, Blair Oaks has just been incredible this year. Let me pull up their number here for you. They are 9-0 on the year. They've given up no more than 26 points on the season, and that was to a Lutheran North team that is really, really good. But their total for the year, they're scoring 56 points a game and giving up 7.3. Defending
Wow.
Class 3 state champions. They dropped down, so they're one of the biggest Class 2 teams. Playing them is everybody's state championship game. If you can beat Blair Oaks, you can beat anybody in Class 2.
So how do they drop down? I thought we lived in a world now where if you won, you moved up and you played. I know it's enrollment based, but is that just the individual sports that if you have a kid win cross country, all of a sudden you're a Class 5 program a couple of years? Or how does that work on the football versus the others?
It's the same across all sports, and it's only for private schools. Blair Oaks isn't a private school. So Blair Oaks gets to move down. So only private schools are affected. That's why you see Springfield Catholic Soccer, for example. They are down in Class 2 this year after years of after winning district titles but not state titles, and now they're the favorite to win. If Springfield Catholic wins state soccer this year, they'll be back up in Class 3 next year. And you can have a kid win state cross country, an individual. But if the team does well, that's when you move up. That's when you move up classes. If you have an individual or 2 or 3 individuals and you're a private school, but you don't have a team, then you don't move up. That's what you see in a Class 1 cross country this year. I think 3 of the top 4 teams from last year's Class 1, I think they were Macaulay Catholic, Thomas Jefferson, and School of the Ozarks. They all moved up to Class 2 this year because they did well. And so now there's less of that top end talent in class. So our local district was basically won by former Class 1 teams in Class 2. So it is all a formula they have. Springfield Catholic cross country is just finally starting to come back down off of what Stephen Kielhoffner and that group did back in the late teens, like 18, 19, 20, that range of things. And so they're finally starting to matriculate back down from Class 5. But in a nutshell, it's only private schools and it is enrollment based.
So my buddy Frank Deland of the Catholic girls, they're Class 10 now in golf, aren't they? Probably, or Class 15.
I make the joke about Incarnate Word that eventually you need to move them around to Class 1 basketball. You just keep sliding them on
Just
up
circle
there.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, just all the way up. But yeah, no, that's the thing about Catholic. You mentioned them. There's nobody in class 4 that had an enrollment of less than 1,000. It classified enrollment, I should say. Classified, it's 9 through 11 enrollment from last year. That's the classified mission enrollment. It's not what you'll see on the official numbers for all 4 grades. And their Catholic's enrollment was something like 250 for classified, and they still were able to get a state trophy.
And I play dumb a lot, and sometimes I'm not playing. I'm just dumb. But all these years, for some reason, I thought Blair Oaks was private. They're a public school.
Out of Wardsville.
Well, that sounds so private, Blair Oaks. I mean, it sounds like it's this tree-lined entrance like Augusta National where, you drop them off in Mercedes at the front door and they're Jaguars and stuff. But anyway, so my apologies to Blair Oaks. I had you pegged as private all these years. What about the Fighting White Squirrels at Marionville? What's
they got it? That's another one where kind of a butterfly flaps its wings. Marionville has always had Springfield Central on the schedule, and that is for them playing up 4 classes, which is big for district seating. They lost Central off the schedule this year, and they added a class 3 level school out of Arkansas. A really good team. They were of all Arkansas teams, all classes, they were ranked in the top 25. Marionville took on the challenge, went down there, and ended up losing. But because they lost kind of that Central bump up, it kind of bumped them down to that number 2 seed, which they might have stayed there anyway because Thayer plays up and they've been really good this year and they play up every single week, 1 or 2 classes. But they basically lost the chance to host because they don't have that one game where they're up. So they have to go out to Thayer if they get there. And that's going to be number 1 versus number 2 in the state, an absolute war. Thayer loves to run the ball. They brought back 2 1,000-yard running backs from last year. Cash Pomeroy and Briar Gearin make things go for Marionville. With that potential Republic Carthage, even Webb City Carthage game, that's got to be probably the district game in the state, 1 versus 2, if it comes to pass. And we will be there to cover it if it is.
Awesome. Bill, you better leave now to get to Thayer. Yeah. So state cross country coming up. You just had districts, correct? There is nothing in between districts and state, right? Yeah. What's our outlook there with local kids and teams in cross country?
Starting in class 5, Kickapoo, Kickapoo boys, they're gonna be a threat up at the top of the rankings there because they had their top 5 spread 11 seconds apart. Their number 1 came across, and within the next 11 seconds, their number 5 was across. They beat a Rockers team that's really good, that has one of the best runners in the state. They beat Ray-Peck, which is always good. So I would say that they have a real potential to make a run at that state title this year in class 5. And on the girls' side, Ava Dahl ran a time at the district meet that would have won class 5 4 out of the 6 years it's been at Gans Creek. So she can, and Gans Creek is fast. It's
in Columbia, right?
It's in Columbia. They've run NCAA national tournaments there. That is one that will never leave. It's going to be at Gans Creek until Gans Creek doesn't exist anymore. It is a special made specific cross-country course that Columbia put together specifically to host those big national meets and the state meet. So yeah, Gans Creek is an incredible facility. Like I said, it's really fast.
How long has it been there?
I think 6 years.
I remember the old Jeff City days. When did they move away from Jeff City?
Yeah, about 6 years ago, they moved away once this Gans Creek was done, and the courses couldn't be more different. Jefferson City rewarded toughness like no other. There was that what they called Heart Attack Hill, where you had to get up this hill. It was very hilly there at that golf course. Gans Creek is flat and fast. At the old Jefferson City course, if you saw kids running 15, 20, they were incredible. Now you're seeing kids up there at Gans Creek run 14:45. And that is some of the training techniques, and the kids are just getting faster, but that course is fast and you always run a good time there. So excited to see how that looks. In class 3, Senry Mendoza, he's a really interesting case. Normally you don't see the track football double for a distance runner, like the 3,200 meter. He's a 2-time 3,200 meter state champ, and you always wonder where he is on the cross country course. It's because the 3,200 meter state champ was playing football. This year he decided to dedicate to cross country because he knows it's his future. He's going to Oklahoma State. He is committed there. Signing days next week. I'm guessing he will sign probably a week from this Wednesday. And he has gone 15:03 this year, and he is the heavy favorite to win in class 3. Similarly, Wyatt Klaber from El Dorado Springs, he is a heavy favorite in class 2 for an individual. And then in Class 1, we've just got kids everywhere. We typically have dominated that class locally with all the, area small schools, School of the Ozarks. Crane's had a lot of success. Chadwick's had success there as well. So that's kind of like what we're looking at with cross country. The big classes go on Friday starting at 9 a.m. and the small classes 1 and 2. The 3 big classes go on Friday and the small classes go on Saturday.
Did you say West Plains is back in the mix too?
Yes, Class 4. They are trying to win on both sides up there. They've swept the district titles, and they're always in the mix. I mean, the way with what Bill Dixon has started there, Alicia Gunter has just continued it, and it's a pretty incredible. To be honest, if you were making a list of most dominant athletic programs, regardless of sport, I'm not sure you're beating West Plains cross country in any sport. Even Incarnate Word doesn't have the stuff.
Do they still wear the candy stripe shorts?
Yep, you still have to earn them too. You got to earn your stripes. Quite literally, there's certain times and markers that kids have to run, and then they get their stripes.
Now, was Alicia a runner for them? Because that name sounds awfully familiar.
I do believe she was. I do believe she was. Yeah. She ran under Joe Bill, and then he has taken over from him these last few years.
Awesome, good deal. Soccer. Where are we on the boys' soccer? Are we in districts? Are we past that? Where are we?
We're in districts. We're in district semifinals. Yesterday, the Springfield Catholic District, they hit their semifinal round, or they've had their semifinal round. And then the rest of the semifinals, I believe, get going on, I say yesterday, when on Tuesday, they had their district semifinal round. Last 3 is over at Parkview. That's Willard and Webb City, Carl Junction and Parkview. That's a wide open district. Anybody could win that one, in my opinion. In Class 4, Glendale, Republic, Nixa, Ozark. They're playing out of Republic. It is Glendale Republic and Nixa Ozark in the semifinals. And they will play that on Wednesday the 5th, today, as we were recording this. And 3 of the championships are on Monday. Your Class 1 district is also on Monday. That one looks like Lakeway Dixon is the top seed. But then tomorrow is your first soccer district title game. That will be Springfield Catholic versus Logan Rogersville. And they'll play in that one tomorrow at Springfield Catholic at 6:30. Then after that, they go straight to the quarterfinals the following Saturday. The winner of our big class district has to play Rockhurst, which is a nationally ranked soccer program, undefeated. And then Catholic is a favorite to win in their class. And then, it's kind of a look at how it is.
Girls golf, we already wrapped that up. Paige Bowman wins her 3rd straight. Is Riley Allred from Ash Grove wins her 3rd straight with a year left. I encourage Paige to see if she'd go heckle her next year just to keep the title here locally. But good efforts by both them. I'm sure that Paige was a joy for you guys to cover too.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, like, her and Josie Roberts, they battled this year. I'll tell you that. Ozarks, Josie Roberts, it was a battle. Josie didn't have quite the state she was wanting there, but still finished in the top 5, I believe. Before I get to Paige, I want to shout out Josie. She set the course record from the Reds at Silo Ridge. Shot a 62, I believe it was. Set the course record up there. Incredible season. But Paige is the picture of consistency. I'm not sure I've seen a more consistent scorecard across the state meet, several state meets across the entire year. She's not going to hit, like, there's not a ton of eagles in there necessarily, but on a consistent basis, I should say. But she's going to stay even par, bogey, birdie right in there. If there's a bogey, a birdie's coming kind of thing. And that consistency is one thing that makes her such a golfer that Mizzou wants. You know what you're going to get, and sometimes she's going to go really, really low because she was the one who previously held the Silo Ridge record. And then just her story with, everything her family's gone through with her father, and it just an incredible story of perseverance and, being consistent. What a great family, what a great golfer. It's been fun to follow her career.
Softball, this is kind of the lighter season of softball, right? Is it more of a spring or fall? Refresh me again.
There are 5 classes in the fall. Spring is only for schools with an enrollment less than 300 or 400.
That's right.
You have to be that. So there's only 2 classes, but we typically dominate spring softball now. That's kind of the season that we had. Like some years we'll have 3 of the 4 Final Four teams in Class 2. We've had that happen a couple of years in a row, and 1 or 2 teams in Class 1. Almost always have last year, like Warsaw won the state title and they played Diamond. This year in the fall, Cassville made it to their first Final Four, as did Halfway. and then both teams fell in the semifinals there. But what you've seen is a lot of our small class powers have moved to the spring, and they've added volleyball as a result. So like the Summit Conference didn't used to play volleyball because you didn't have enough athletes. You couldn't play softball and volleyball, but now the Summit Conference plays volleyball, and then they do spring softball. So it's been an overall good thing for female athlete participation, getting more sports, getting more opportunities for the small schools to have multiple sports.
Did I miss any fall sports, or did we hit them all there? I think
Swimming.
we did.
Swimming. Boys swimming.
What's that?
Boys swimming.
Boys swimming. Yeah, tell me about that.
Southwest Missouri Swim and Dive Championships happened last week. The Central boys, really good to see them. That athletic program has been through some stuff with everything going on with football, moving independent, and they're still finding success in the pool there. Carson Butler from Glendale is the number 1 ranked 100-meter fly in the class. He set the pool record he set the meet record and tied the pool record in the event at Southwest Missouri Swim and Dive Championships. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. I do want to circle back. Speaking of Central, the Central boys cross country team qualified for state this year, took third place as a team. First time since the 90s, Central is sending a whole boys team to the state cross country meet. So congratulations to them on getting out there in a tough class too. Up there in class 4, getting out there and going to state.
Awesome. Well, I know you're in the middle of writing basketball previews. Some of them are already up on the Ozone website. Give me 3 boys teams and 3 girls teams as a little sneak peek to watch for hoops coming up. When are the first legal games?
That week. That typically it's that Thursday and Friday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
When you'll get those.
Yeah.
But Kickapoo, they bring a lot back. They're going to be a little bit undersized this year potentially. Rogersville's if you ask me who I think the best team in the area is going to be, it's probably going to be, in my opinion, Logan Rogersville, because in basketball, if you have the best player, I give you the nod more often than not. And they have one of the best players, not in the area, but in the country. And Chase Branham, Indiana commit, junior, top 50 recruit in the nation. They're going to be really good. And it kind of like with Joel Wells, what he has going on at Rogersville, there's a lot of young talent. And Gage Hale on the football field is an incredible receiver. And Joe Roche as a running back, I believe he's a junior. Same thing's happening on the basketball court. Junior and Chase Branham, and they got some freshmen who had a lot of success that are now sophomores. And so they got a lot of young talent. And then Hartville, they're going to be back. They were a bucket away against Eugene from winning another state title last year. Coach Reed in the preview said that he thinks they'll be disappointed if they don't win another state title. So they've got a lot of senior leadership there. Flipping over to the girls' side, Rogersville brings back its top 8 scorers, including Haley Buckman, a SEMO commit that I mentioned earlier. They bring back their top 8 scorers from a Final Four team last year. Marshfield has 2 All-Staters in Quinn Aldridge and Peyton Ward, and they got a sophomore in Izzy Cherney, who is getting offers from like the Wichita State level of teams. And they were a quarterfinal team last year. Stratford has the 2 Larson girls, All-Staters, the daughters of the coach Dustin Larson. Elsie Larson's going to Colorado State. Her signing day should be coming up. That's 3. But on Kickapoo, you can't really talk about girls basketball without Kickapoo. They added a couple of Link Academy transfers this year, and so I think we're in for a really, really strong year of basketball on both the boys and girls sides. There's been a lot of young talent that's been kind of coming up, and that young talent's older talent now. And I'm excited for this basketball season. I think the blue and gold and I think the pink and white are going to be just 2 incredible tournaments this year.
And you told me the Tournament Champions field, Bass Pro Tournament Champions, looks stellar again this year coming up in January.
Yes, we have the number 2 and number 4 recruit in the class of 2026 coming. Max Preps just released its high school rankings. Now, they do a few years back, Max Preps started ranking the academies like Link separate from teams that can compete for state titles. This is a non-academy year in the TFC, and of the 8 teams in the tournament, all 5 non-Missouri teams are ranked in the top 20 of Max Prep's initial rankings, with Paul VI, I believe, being ranked the highest at 7th, but they're all between like 7th and 19th. So it's going to be high-level basketball with a couple of really headline high-level players with the number 2 and the number 4 recruit in the nation for this upcoming graduating class.
And Raj and Kickapoo, are they the 2 locals?
Mm-hmm. And then Principia is kind of the regional one from the St. Louis area.
Very good. Well, Parker, get back to work. I took you away from those previews for about 35 minutes. we've lost time on that project today. So appreciate your time. Let's do it again in a couple months and get caught up. And of course, we'll see you every Monday on the starting lineup, giving us your updates. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Appreciate you taking the time.
You bet. Thanks, Chris. Wanted to tell you about our new radio show that's on in the mornings now called The Starting Lineup. It started this week on the Midwest Family Marketing family of stations, 102.1 FM, The One. The Starting Lineup is myself, Ned Reynolds, and Art Haynes. We're on from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have guests like Chris Parker, the Ozone, on each week to kind of give us reports on the specialty areas that they cover. And so we're very appreciative of that. So encourage our podcast viewers to download the 102.1 The One app. They'll have archived content on there shortly, chances to enter contests through Midwest Family, and really a great place to catch up on sports on a daily basis in the mornings and each week. So very appreciative of the opportunity to join the team at 102.1 The One and the Starting Lineup show with Ned and Art. Big thank you to our sponsors. Start with Thompson Sales. Of course, they have been in business since 1919. Thompson boys are always dealing. They're located at 1555 East Independence in South Springfield. They're your home for the area's largest selection of Cadillac, Buick, and GMC cars and trucks, new and used. And they got a great service department to take care of your vehicle throughout your ownership of it. Also, big thanks to Colton Steakhouse. Thought we might get Thomas on today. We'll shoot for him next week, but they are just down the road from Thompson's at 2020 East Independence. No better place to get a steak. I have one of the best burgers there, the Montana burger that I've ever had. It's just juicy and it's made out of ground up steak. Their barbecue is really good there. Their salads, of course, those homemade rolls and butter and the peanuts you get with the meal. It's all a feast at Colton Steakhouse, and we appreciate Thomas and Colton's coming on as a sponsor. That's going to do it this week for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching.